Hello, good morning, everybody. It is 7:30 here in Los Angeles, and it is my birthday. So I'm super excited about today because I really love my birthday, and I feel like it's my special day, and I get to celebrate it with you guys. So today we are going to be doing a spooky landing page design. This is day two, and yesterday I said I was going to wear a costume, and today no, I'm wearing a costume. You're like, what is she wearing? This is actually a flying squirrel costume, and it is a little warm, so I might have to take it off at some point. But I wanted to start with it for the spooky vibes, for the Halloween vibes, getting ready for next month. Okay, so really super excited again about today, responsive day, doing a responsive landing page, and today is day two. So first, let me get into the schedule for the day, which is obviously myself, 7:30. 9 a.m. is Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. 9:30 is Character Design. 11:30 a.m. Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge. 12 p.m. Character Design. 2 p.m. XD Daily Creative Challenge. And then 2:30 Designing in the Dark. Cool. All right, everyone. So welcome. Again, yes, we are doing a responsive design today for a spooky Halloweeny landing page. Who am I? I'm Elizé Todd. I'm an Adobe XD instructor. I also am a freelance UX designer and content creator. I create fun and educational, goofy content on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we covered yesterday. So if you missed yesterday, no problem at all. What we did was we talked a little bit about sketching, and we did the desktop version of our landing page. Today, what we're going to be doing is a tablet and a mobile version of our design. So, if you guys have never heard of responsive design, or maybe you have, but you've never created or designed anything in this sort of format, well, what responsive design is a single flexible design that would shrink or stretch to fit the screen. Okay, so we are talking about having one design that is flexible for multiple devices. If you guys are here for this, if you guys did not come yesterday, this is your first day, let me know in the chat so I can say hello and welcome, and also to kind of see where you guys are coming from, where you guys are at, and if you're fresh, if you've seen this design yesterday or not. Yeah. So happy birthday. I'm getting a lot of happy birthdays. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to spend my morning with you guys. Oh, my sound is quiet. Okay. This is all the way up. Let me know if that is better. Let me know. All right. So, what I am going to first show you guys is one example I showed yesterday, a couple examples of responsive design, but I'm just going to show you one example here, which is from Credit Karma. So we want to just look at the navigation and looking at some of the elements on the screen as I start to make the screen a bit smaller. So first, the navigation, the hamburger menu came about. First, it was just a bunch of menu items, and then it turned into a hamburger menu. The screen is starting to shrink, and then we have some of the elements starting to stack like such. And you even saw some visual elements disappearing. But the whole design didn't change. A lot of times we'll think about removing things from desktop to tablet or from tablet to mobile, but it's really the same structure of the website. My voice is still very low. Or yes or no? Is that better? Maybe it's my hoodie. Okay, so let's get into it. Yesterday, I showed my sketches. So when I start to do a responsive redesign, I sketch out the desktop as well as the mobile simultaneously. So first, I will do the desktop, then I'll look at the mobile and see how things might stack. and so forth. And this is how I start to do thinking about other devices very early on in the experience. You don't want to like fully flesh out your desktop design and never even think about how it's going to translate onto other devices. So this is one of the first steps you can take into thinking about being very device conscious. And then after that, I did the desktop design with you guys yesterday. And I did make a few other changes to the design since yesterday. And one of those things is the footer. So we were playing around with, is it purple or should it be orange? And then I just settled on black yesterday after we got off the call. And I was like, that's just going to be cleaner. It doesn't need to be so noticeable in the footer. Hope you guys can agree. Hope you guys can appreciate. And then I changed just some of the icon colors in the background. So that was something else I did. So if you guys are fresh and you haven't seen the design, we are doing a spooky and mysterious stories landing page, so you can have a monthly subscription to listen to all you can listen or read Halloween stories. And so what we did was did some popular books here, popular genres, and some of the pricing options. So this is our main landing page that we did yesterday, and the one that we are going to do a tablet or a mobile design for today. Now, I want to mention that I took inspiration from this designer. Let me just pull up his name because I do not want to butcher it because it's a nice name, but it's difficult. Dmitry Kiashko. This is his design, and the illustrations are by Lydia Jean Art. All right, that's who I'm taking some visual inspiration from. All right, Tim, is my audio better? I wasn't able to get a response yet. Let me know. Want to make sure you can actually hear me. All right. So, what I'm going to first mention is I always design with three three artboards when I'm doing responsive: desktop, tablet, and mobile. That is kind of the most typical sort of method. Sometimes people will just do desktop and mobile. It depends really on the platform that you're working on, if your development team, all of that you can work out. But if you don't even have a team, you're just trying to work on it, I would suggest to design for those three sizes and do what I did when I looked at Credit Karma. Look at a couple examples. Credit Karma, you can look at some other ones like Walmart, Airbnb, Nordstrom, and get some inspiration for how they utilize the different design elements when it goes down to different device sizes. That's the first thing I would suggest to do. See how others are doing it, and then start to understand, okay, how things are stacked, how things change when they are going through different devices. Okay, let's get started. Do-do-do. Oh, it's still low. That is so odd. I changed my gain all the way to the max today, so I will hopefully. There we go. Let's see. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Sorry guys if you can't hear me. I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder than I normally would. All right, artboard. So first artboard I am going to select is going to be the tablet here, and I'm going to do the tablet 10.5 inch. Now, something I am going to recommend to you guys is if you have a tablet, you can design in real time with your tablet. I'll show you. Like if you have a tablet, you can connect it. You have the Adobe XD app on your tablet, and you can design in real time and see how it actually looks on your tablet. It's amazing. I'm going to show you how I do that with my mobile a little bit later because it's so important to actually see what it looks like in the device. So that is a big tip that I have for you. Some of you may not have a tablet, but most of you probably have a mobile phone, and it's the same thing for mobile as well. All right. San is asking how to disappear elements in responsive design. Yeah, so in your design, if I wanted to no longer have a certain design element. Maybe I had a fancy background here that looks super cool on desktop, but it's not necessary perhaps for mobile, or it's maybe too complex and it doesn't translate as well. You can actually just delete it from your design, and it's very easy for the development team to just remove that element from the screen. So that's why I like to design desktop first, even though that's kind of a no-no. Some people say mobile first, some people say desktop first. Different designers have different methods, but I always think it's easier to remove than to add. So I start that way, understanding. That's why I always begin with a sketch to understand how design elements are going to translate. But it's always easier for me to remove elements from a desktop than to continuously add. Okay, first thing is I'm going to get my navigation here at the top. And actually, you know what? I'm going to start with the background. So yesterday there's a couple background layers here. Again, this is for beginners. Okay, so if this is moving a bit slow for you, I'm sorry, this is for beginners. So I'm just going to mention here, I'm going into my actual layer by selecting this layer, and now I can see it in my layers panel. This is where all my layers are. Everything that is on my artboard is here. So I see, okay, great, that's there. I have this little rectangle. I'm just going to move it aside so I can see the other background layer here. So that's here, the screenshot in the background. So I want to bring both of these two layers into my tablet. Now, there is a couple ways you can think about responsive redesign. You can grab it like this and paste it into your artboard. Okay, that's one option, and then resize it. But XD has this responsive redesign capability, and I would highly recommend for you to try it out. It's not perfect, but it's really, really awesome and a great way to start a responsive redesign. So what I would do to do it in this format is I'm just going to grab my artboard and make a copy of it. Okay, and once I make a copy of it, and I want to change it to responsive redesign. Now over here in my property inspector where it says layout is responsive redesign, where I can toggle this on and off. Okay, so I'm toggling it on. So now if I take this the side of my artboard and I drag it in, you're seeing how things are automatically sort of adjusting. It's not perfect, but things are automatically adjusting, like that background image. Okay, some things are stacking a little oddly, but that's okay. So this is a method, and you can also just type in up here in the upper right hand corner where the width is. I can type in the artboard size that I want it to respond to. So 834. I can also just do that. That's the size I want. So responsive redesign, they have an algorithm where they looked at thousands of different designs and kind of understood how things will shift and change from going from desktop to tablet, etc. And they've created this new feature that sort of does some of that busy work already for you. Okay, so we're going to go that route and just fix the pieces that look a bit wonky. All right. Oh. Okay, you guys, I thought, Tim, you're saying I'm shouting right now, but Kadima says you can try shouting. Okay, Shannon says she turned up her volume and it's all good. Okay, good. I'm so glad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that it's not great sound today. Nothing's changed from yesterday, so I'm wondering what's up with that. Okay, so one of the main things that we noticed in the credit card example, Credit Karma, that example that we just had seen, is the navigation had changed. Now you can change the navigation. Let me put my hoodie back on here so you can. Gotta wear my costume. So the navigation can change into a hamburger menu at the tablet view, or it can remain depending on how many menu items there are. So in my case, there are only 4 menu items. So let me scoot this guy over, the logo, And then let me drag these over. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know if it really needs to have a hamburger menu. It can all fit fairly decently in here. So I am going to keep it as is. If this were, if I had 8 menu items and I had all these drop downs perhaps and so forth, and it was pretty large, then I would probably move that all into a hamburger menu. Okay, and if you don't know what a hamburger menu is, you will find out when I go into mobile design. Okay, so the other thing that I'm paying attention to is text sizes now at this point. Sometimes it translates okay and it's totally fine, and sometimes it's like, it's way too large, way too crazy for this artboard. And that's why I say it's really handy to actually look at the design on a device as you're designing in real time. So here, I'm using a 17 font for the titles. I think it's okay. We can stick with that for now, but this looks quite large. So I am going to shrink this down and make it a bit smaller. It's a 55 now. And I am going to now make this a new character style. So before yesterday, I had this as my H1. This is my desktop H1, and this is my tablet H1. So I want to create that character style here to have consistency throughout my designs. So I'm just going to add it here, and I'm just going to say H1 tablet, okay? That's my tablet one. Now, here is my body font. It's an 18 font. I don't think it's too big as of yet. I think it works fine. So let's keep it as is for now. And then here is my button. That could be a wee bit big. But let's see how it feels with a more shrunk down image. It does feel a little bit large. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to take this button, and I had already made it a component. So yesterday, if you missed what I did, you can make components and they're reusable throughout your design. And what I'm going to do is actually remove it from being a component because I want to make a new tablet version of my call to action button. And how I can do that is I can just ungroup it. So I can right click and I can ungroup component. And now this is no longer attached to any other component, any button on my screen. And now I'm going to play around with it, just make it a tad bit smaller. Um, and that looks fine for me right now. And now I'm going to make it a new component. So how I do that is I can take these two layers. So I'm selecting my text and selecting the background shape. And if I wanted to, I can also do that from the layers panel. You can just select these two layers here, and I can right click to make this a component. Now this is a new component. Now, if you guys have just learned what a component is, if I make this a component and I make replicas of this component, so this was my main component, the first one I created, and this is a replica. Anytime I make a change to my master component, it's going to affect all my replicas, okay? And this just makes it much easier when you need to make changes in your design. So when I'm designing right now, I'm not getting attached to anything at the moment because I can always make these changes later down the road. I'm just trying to get the general structure of what it's going to be like. So I am actually now going to change this font. It looks now a wee bit large to me, to a 16 font, and it's going to also match the font size of the button. So I am going to make this 16. And I'm going to add that into my character styles. And now this is body tablet. Okay, we got the top down. We good. And I think I'm actually going to make these also that 16 font. Okay, so now we see the desktop, we see the tablet. It looks fairly similar in the ratio of sizing. And I'm going to leave it like this for now until later on when I can check it out on my tablet view. Um, Isam asks a question, what is the difference between a page designed by a computer and one designed by a UX designer? Let me know what you mean by that. What do you mean by a page designed by a computer? Can you give me an example of that? Um, yeah, maybe you mean a page designed by a developer and a page designed by a designer. If that's the question, let me know. Somebody who actually codes it versus somebody who designs. Maybe that's what you're referring to. Let me know. Okay, so I'm going to bring all this up. And this is going to actually feel fairly similar to this where it's coming off the page and you can scroll through. But this does feel a wee bit large. So I'm just going to make these elements a bit smaller. Now, this is in a repeat grid. So yesterday I had turned on repeat grid, which is right up here, which means that anything I do to one is going to affect the others. Okay, so if I make this one smaller, you see how the other ones are like, we're smaller too. Yes. Okay. For now, the font sizes feel fine to me. They still seem like they are good, um, are good size compared, but I might adjust later. Okay, so there are my this is my carousel. I want to make sure at least there is one card that is hanging off the design so that the user knows that they can scroll. So that is something that you want to make sure you have anytime you have some sort of scrolling behavior, the user needs to understand that. So having a little bit come off gives them the signal for that, okay? So this button here, I am also going to ungroup it. You remember, right click and ungroup the component. And I'm going to make this now my button size for my new button size for tablet, which is 16. Now I'm going to take these elements, take these layers, and then right click and make that a component. So now this is my button tablet. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'm really bad at labeling my components. As you can see, like I labeled half of them, but it's really good to start getting better at labeling them, especially when you go from desktop to tablet. So once I'm done with the design, I will usually start to label them afterwards once I feel really good about the design. Okay, let's go into the next thing, popular genres here. I'm just dragging everything up. And now you can see that um, was in response repeat grid as well, but it just didn't kind of take in the responsive resize. So I'm just going to take this and drag it back out. And that's like the 4 cards that I would want to have. Okay, but they're way too big. And so I have a couple choices here. I can either stack them so that it's one on top of another, like I have in my mobile design here. Or I can also shrink them down so that they can fit in this tablet view. That's what I'm going to try to do initially because I feel like if I stack it, it's a lot of space. I don't know if it needs it. This is 2 columns. It's totally okay to have 2 or 3 columns still on tablet as well. So I am going to go that route for now. So you can actually see that when I am pushing this whole group together, it's actually using responsive resize to like try to figure out where the element should go, but it's not looking so great. So I am going to actually not use responsive resize here. So I'm going to I have to go back to my, okay. I'm actually just going to take this layer now. So I'm just going to take this background layer and shrink it down. And I take my little icon and I'm going to shrink it down. Oh my gosh, it looks so crazy. Actually, I'm going to try one more thing, which sometimes works as well, is I'm just going to take it off of repeat grid. And then I am going to, sometimes that works for me, this time not. So I am going to have to, I have a couple choices. Something that I'll do is I can just export my icons as a PNG and then bring it back into the design. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do a lot of catering to this design. So let's try out making this smaller and trying them out individually for my little icon. And if it doesn't work so well, I'm just going to export it as a PNG. It worked out fine. I was complaining about nothing. Okay, there we go. He's so cute. So if I do it in this format, obviously this text is way too large. So I want to shrink it down to this size. So what is this, 25? Oh, this is also 25. Yeah, I'm going to have to shrink down this new. So what I'm looking for now is, okay, what is this labeled? Is this my H3? Is this my H2? What is this? Because I want to make a new one for tablet. So in order to figure that out, I can just select this layer and right click in order to reveal this character style in my assets. So I know that now it's an H3. Okay. So from there, I can be like, okay, I want to make this smaller. And I am going to add this as a new character style as my H3 tablet. Okay, so now I can just like go ahead and grab these other elements and just make them my H3 tablet. Yay. Okay, so this is about the size I'm going to go with here, which is 445. So I'm looking over on the right hand side at the width and the height, 445 and 147. I'm going to keep it like that. 445 147. And I just want to do it with these two to see if it makes sense in this design, if it looks right. And I actually think it's a little too short. So oh my gosh, you guys, I am so hilarious. I thought I was working in the tablet view this whole time. Oh, how hilarious. All right, let me switch these over. This is what happens when you don't usually wake up at this early, and then you suddenly wake up this early and you're just, yeah, off. I'm not on my A game. All right, but it's okay. You guys forgive me. It's my birthday. Here we go. So that is the desktop, and this is actually the tablet. Okay. So actually, I need to shrink it down even more. I'm gonna check on you guys. How are you guys doing? Oh, Tim is answering some questions there. Thank you so much, Tim. And Marcia says, it happens to me all the time. Good. Thank you so much, Marcia. Thank you for making me feel good. I'm like, what am I doing? So this needs to shrink even more. Actually, I'm going to grab these back. This is what happens when you design live, right? When you design at home, no one gets to see the imperfect qualities. Right? Okay. I'm going to, oh yeah, ungroup this grid. Do, 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 do. Oh my gosh. So I ungrouped the grid and there's all these. Just gotta delete them. Then I'm gonna take all these guys. I'm just gonna shrink them all down. Does not want to. I know there's like a better way of doing this, and my mind is kind of struggling to remember. I think I know what it is. I think it's just because it's a component. Do, 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 do. There we go. Yeah, because I had them as components, which means like I have the main component over here, and this one here is when it was in the repeat grid as well, it just wasn't allowing me to shrink them down as easily. So I just removed them from being in a component, and I can make these a new component now as a tablet version of this card. So I could do that as well. But I'm just glad that I didn't have to align each of those individually. That's what I was trying to avoid. I'm like, I do not want to align each one of these individually. And sometimes you just kind of have to finesse it and like, okay, if it's not working like this, let me try out a couple things first and just figure it out as you go. Okay, so now this is a 16 font, which I think is a little too small. I am going to, we made these the H3 tablet, yep. So I'm going to bring these all back to my H3 tablet. Doop, those are my fonts, and then this is just going to go on 2 lines. And that's totally okay. Yay! We figured it out, and it's so cute, and I didn't have to mess with the icons. Perfect. All right, so there is the genres. We're moving on to the last bit here. So you can see that the background, and it might be hard for you to tell, but the background layer was actually adjusted. This one is just a little bit off, and that's totally okay. So I am going to grab this layer on top, the rectangle, and just move it aside because I want to move this other background layer. There's another background layer back here. And I'm going to grab that guy and I'm just going to take it up here. Now you're seeing this weird space. What is that? Well, it's just the mask had moved. The image that was inside the rectangle had moved. So in order to move it back up, I'm just going to double click and drag it back up. So if you ever see that happen in your design, it's just because it needs to be moved up. It just had a little bit of a wonky segue into the redesign, into the resize. Okay, so there's that. Bring in the pricing options. And now here is where I am going to think, okay, do I want these cards to stack as well? So are they going to be like on 2 and then 1 underneath? Is that how it's going to stack? Won't look so good, right? It won't feel so good. And the kind of experience of seeing the middle one be popular is going to be lost. And then I can also choose to stack them one on top of one another, but that means that they'd be, you know, kind of, I can show you what that experience would look like. It'd be kind of long like this. And I'm like, does it need to be that long as well? And so I think, okay, there's not that much content in here. It could be restructured, still maintaining the 3 column format and just shrinking it down so that it fits as well. So that's what I am going to try now, is just shrinking all these guys so that they fit. Let me see if I can just shrink the whole thing. Shrink it, shrink it. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see how that feels and it looks. And again, I would check it out on my tablet to see. You're going to see some things are wonky, some things are a little off, and that's okay. This is kind of like the challenge of going from desktop to tablet, is you're just going to have to keep adjusting and playing around with things to get it to the right, um, just the right sort of feel for this particular device. Okay. So things have moved about, things have changed, and but I do think it feels good to have the three cards next to each other in this format in the center versus being stacked. I think it works well for now. And so what I need to do is adjust the buttons. So the buttons did not adjust in sizing. Doo -doo -doo. So this is 171 width and a 36 height. So I'm just going to adjust this. And then let's look at the font. We actually are using 16 for the font size on tablet. Okay. And just want to make sure that everything is centered. Just going to center all these things here. Okay. Yeah, this one feels pretty good. So I'm just going to continue on and adjusting the rest of these. So this is also 16. Going to center those. And this is like a little bit too large now, so I'm just going to take the corner and shrink it down. Now to try to keep and maintain the same dimensions of it, you're just going to hold down Shift to bring it back down to make it a bit smaller. And so now it feels all cute and small and looks nice inside this center card here. And I'm just going to take this and make sure it's centered by grabbing this background layer and then, oops. Sometimes it's kind of hard to grab just one layer if it's in this repeat grid format. Come on. If not, there are other ways to do it, and now I'm going to work it out in just a second. So what I can do now is I'll just center this perfectly here. So what I'm doing now is I'm just making sure this whole repeat grid is actually centered first. And now I just adjusted it so that the little blue and pink line in the center is showing me, okay, that's in the center. So, okay, perfect. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the button. And now I saw that same pink line saying, yes, it's in the center. So now I can feel good and breathe and like, that's all centered. Great. All right, so then here's the button. It's the size 171 and 35. I'm going to grab this button and just change that now. And then this was our 16 font. And if you are a beginner in XD, which this is for beginners, I will say the struggle that I had the most when I first started designing was dealing with layers, was dealing with kind of what I was just dealing with. Okay, this layer, it was kind of maybe feeling a bit like tough to grab particular layers and whatnot. What I'm going to suggest is something you can do is make sure that you have things grouped or ungrouped. So what does that mean? So this is a group here. So I've grouped them together, and how I can group them is right click and group them. And that means when I move it, it all moves together. But sometimes I want to just grab particular things, right, within a group. And so it can get frustrating because maybe the whole group wants to come and I don't want the whole group to come. So you can play around with ungrouping groups as well. So you can ungroup to kind of play around with each individual element maybe a little bit easier. And the other thing I'm going to suggest is the command button. If you select command, you can get into particular layers quicker. Okay, and then finally, if all else fails, you can always go into your layers panel and select a particular layer from there if you want to just adjust a couple layers. So there's a few ways of going about it, but I remember that that was a big pain point and a frustration for me when I first started. So that could be of help to you. So I'm going to just adjust this background now so that it fits. Alrighty. So the footer actually had a nice, was preserved pretty nicely, except the logo is just on top here. So it's going to move that guy. And we had changed this to the to this body font here. Body tablet. Okay. And just going to center that, bring these guys over. That looks fine. So this is my footer. Now I'm going to group them, right click and group, and then I'm just going to drag them up over here, and now they're attached. And I'm just going to make this whole artboard shorter. Oops. So if what you just saw right there, I actually was trying to make the artboard shorter, and you saw that everything just started to get messed up. It's because I still have responsive resize turned on into this artboard. So I need to make sure I turn it off here, and then I can drag this artboard and make it shorter. So once you start playing with responsive resize, just make sure if things start messing up like that, you can just turn it off and turn it on as you need to. Okay, so there is the tablet design. All right, I'm going to pause here and just see if you guys have any thoughts or questions. Try manual responsive adjustment for component. You know, Sanket, maybe I am so bad at doing the manual. If it doesn't work automatically, I never touch the manual. So there is the option, as you guys can see here, under auto is the option to manually adjust. And I can play around with it more. I've just never had the patience for it. You know, just one of those features, and that everyone probably has their own particular feature that they're like, I just don't even want to. I'd rather just probably spend the extra time. So that is one of them for me, is doing anything manual. But I appreciate that sentiment. And maybe some of you are really good at that, which I commend you. Okay. Valeria says, you asked about the color on the bottom menu. What if you use purple? Yeah, so I tried out purple yesterday, and I was like, maybe it's just causing too much attention, but I will try it out for you right now, and you tell me what you think, and maybe you guys will feel differently. Let me know. Does that feel good, or does it feel too abrupt for you guys? Or let me know what you guys feel. So that's the option. I'll just bring one back to black so you can see what that's like. And then there's the one that's purple. If it's purple, I feel like this needs to just like, I don't know. I'll just adjust this. That's fine. So that's the option number 2 for purple, and then black. All right. So then let's go into mobile. So I'm going to just grab this same artboard, and like I said, I'm just going to drag a new version, a new copy of that. So from here, I'm going to go to A for artboard to remember what the sizing I'm looking for is. I'm not looking for the right width size. So I am actually just going to grab 414 as my width size. I can see it right here. The iPhone 6, 7, 8 Plus is 414. So I am going to, man, my hoodie will not stay on. My little Halloween costume will not stay on. It's because I'm moving my head too much. Okay, so 414, so I'm going to go over to the width. And oh, actually, first I'm going to turn on responsive resize here. I keep saying redesign. It's because I'm so used to redesigning things, I think. All right, and then 414 is the width, and there we go. That's how it's resized. Doo, doo, doo. But you know what? I'm gonna try something out. I forgot. Who suggested the manual? Let's play around with manual a little bit better. Um, okay, everyone's saying black is. Please change it back to black. Dark background, please. All right, going back. Going back to black. But I like this debate, guys. Thank you for thank you for making these suggestions. I like to play around with it. It doesn't have to. This is the fun part of pair designing. If you guys have ever done that, working with other designers and giving suggestions and going back and forth. And it's okay if it's not perfect the first 10 times and the first few times. I do that all the time. And sometimes my first designs are like, ooh, that is so not cute. It's so ugly. And then I just keep refining and refining, right? So I love doing this with you guys as well at the same time. So something that, oh yeah, I've said I'm going to play around though with the manual adjustment. So let's see how that goes, guys. So first I'm going to see how it works without it. Okay, so what it looks like is that all these items on the left-hand side are where they need to be. They're all left. So that actually looks good. And then let's see over here, the popular books is centered. The button is continuously being centered, so that's good. Cool. Now, the one thing here are these cards that are kind of starting to meld and move. And let's see if I can use manual. This is a test. We'll see how it goes. Let's make sure these are all grouped together. Okay, I'm just going to make sure these are all grouped in their own little groups. So I'm using the shortcut, which is Command G on Macs. Okay, so those are all grouped. Let's see how now it responds. Okay, so now they're just getting stacked on top of one another. And actually, that could be okay. I wonder what happens if I group them all and then I do it. Oh, it still happens. Okay. And then let's see. I think that no matter what I do, even with the manual responsive, these are both left and that's right, and then these are both right and this is both right. So yeah, this is going to still respond the same way. So I'm not going to actually play around with manual. I think it's actually doing a really great job of understanding where I want things to go. So one thing I'm going to mention once more is I'm using actually my tablet right now for something else, so I wasn't able to show it to you. But I wanted to show you what it looks like on your phone. I know it's going to be a really small screen, but what it can be on your phone, and you can see it in real time as you're designing. So if I move this rectangle, it's moving on here as well. So this is what I'm going to be paying special attention to as I'm designing to see, does the buttons feel right? Is the sizing right? And everything like that. So, all right, so I'm going to just bring it down to 414 and let's go from there. So the logo's over here. Now the little menu items, they are not going to fit in here. It is going to be a crowded party, right? So I am just going to remove all these guys and bring in what? Do you guys remember what it's called? I'm going to be looking for it in my Icons for Design plugin here. What shall I look for? What's it called, guys? Oh, Antonia says suggested using manual adjustment for the components. Got it. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, we can play around with that. Okay, so I am searching for hamburger menu. I'm just gonna look up menu and probably it will come up. Menu, there it is. So I selected it, but it is black, so I need to change the color from change the border colors to white. so that it really stands out. Okay, now I'm just going to drag in some these little lines for alignment here. Okay, so now I have this H1 here, and I need to make it smaller. Ooh, much smaller, right? So now this is a 35 font. I'm looking at it on my phone, and I'm like, it actually needs to be scooted down a bit, and it could be a little larger. Now that looks better to me, okay? So that's why again it's so important because at first my initial take was like that looks good. No, it didn't. It doesn't look as good. Okay, so from here I am going to make this a new character style, which is my H1 mobile. So I have my H1, I have my H1 tablet, and I have my H1 mobile. Now let's go into my body font. This is a 16, and I'm gonna say typically you do not wanna go any lower than 15 for a body font on mobile. Okay, so make sure that you, even though you're shrinking everything down, body doesn't normally shrink down that much. Okay, and actually when I'm looking on it, I'm looking at it now, and I think it's actually a bit small, and I don't want to use a body font for this secondary, um, uh, this text here. So I'm going to change it. Yeah, to an 18. That feels better. And I'm just going to change the space between the lines here. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at my phone, I'm like, it feels a lot better how easy it is to read it on this, especially because it's on top of an image, and you can actually see the image a lot better on my actual phone than I can on this monitor. Now, this is not my best monitor, so that's one of the reasons. But also now I can just see it much more clearly. And the button, it looks fine. I don't need to adjust it at all. It looks good. But I'm just going to make this a bit smaller of a background. Okay. It's good to have to really the images is another thing you really need to think about when you're adjusting. Sometimes you can just shrink down the image like this and it maintains its same look and same sort of uh, the full picture of the image. And sometimes you may want to crop the image and just use an aspect of it, and that could work as well. So you really want to think about the imagery as well and how it translates from desktop. Okay, so that looks good to me, and I'm going to move on to the popular books. Now this looks really large. It's competing now with my H1. So my H1 is a 40 size font, and this is a 41. So I want to bring it down because this is my H2. It's my second heading, so it's not as large as my H1. Okay. Oops, I made it crooked because I'm holding my phone at the same time. Doo -doo -doo. All right, so I'm going to use 30 and I'm just going to center it. And this is my H2. I'm going to add this little plus button, H2 mobile. So my H2 mobile here. Cool. Great. Now, this guy, I want to make him smaller, and I want to fit similarly to this one, 2.5 cards. So I'm just going to shrink them down, and actually I'm going to expand the repeat grid, because if I don't, it won't shrink all my cards. So these are the 3 I want shrunk. So I'm going to grab this layer and I'm just going to shrink it down. And then I'm going to bring in the spacing between the cards. Needs to be shrunk even more. There we go. Okay. And now the fonts obviously need to be adjusted. So I am going to make those. Let's play around with what I already have here. This is my H3 for tablet, my regular H3, so that's a 20. And let me see if that works. I'm looking on my phone. It actually looks really nice, but I'm worried for longer text. Let's see how this looks. Maybe if the spacing is just a little bit. What do you guys think? Should I do a 20 or should I bring it down to an 18? That works as well. So Sandcat asks, does Android work the same as iOS, the device preview? Yes, it does. So I'm actually using an Android. I'm one of those designers that uses a Android phone and Mac devices. Like I have a tablet, and I have a sorry, I have an iPad, and I also have obviously the Mac desktop. So I'm one of those designers. So I'm actually doing that because I have had iOS for so long, and I was like, I should see what Android is like if I'm going to be designing for it. So that's why I did it. But I'm like, I miss my iPhone so bad. Maybe some of you guys are big Android lovers, but it's just like all my devices don't talk to each other like they used to. They don't connect as easier. All right, so I know it's grainy, some of you guys are saying, but it is looking really nice here. You guys are suggesting the 18 font. Great. Yeah, I think that works really nicely and it feels good. And this button size, so something about buttons on mobile, which is kind of interesting, is you could, if you've noticed, a lot of mobile buttons actually will expand the whole screen. And it doesn't always have to be that way, that's for sure. But it just somewhat makes it a little bit easier when you're on your phone sometimes if the whole width is kind of takes up the whole screen, and it works really well on mobile. It doesn't look as good on desktop or tablet if the button is really expanded to the whole screen, but it works really nicely for mobile. So let's see how it feels. This is one version, and I'm looking at it again on my phone, seeing how that feels. It looks nice, but I'm going to try now another version here. I'm going to ungroup it. And I'm going to bring it in there. And now I'm looking at it here on my phone and seeing how that feels. And that feels really nice. But I think it can go either way. Which ones do you guys like, small or big? Small or big, small or big. Okay, so this was my H2 mobile. So I'm going to just change this one into my H2 mobile as well. And I'm going to center it. And then these cards, I'm going to stack. Now, I didn't want, you can have like a sort of like this has 2 columns right now on mobile, right? Except this is like 2.5 actually. But so this could be considered 2 columns on mobile, and that can work okay, fine. Typically, you don't have more than 2 columns like this on mobile. And so we could see, okay, should we make these actually perhaps more of a shape that's taller and fit two cards next to each other, or do we want to stack them? And so those are a couple choices, and I am going to just stack these actually, because I think it looks nice, and it's not like it's not too long where it's going to make it a really lengthy, arduous process and page. So I am just going to keep these as is, and just adjust the width of them. Mike says change to orange when pressed would be good. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that. Um, Excellence, Amen. How do you determine the gutter size for mobile designs? So I think that we haven't talked about grids yet, but I can talk a little bit about it. So if I were using this mobile, I can turn on grid and I can have my column sizes and my gutter sizes here, and I can select them so that I can have, okay, this maybe this is a 4 column, and I can select the width for them. Oops, I can select the gutter width. Sorry, it's hard for me to see because it's on the corner of my screen. So you can change actually all of the, there we go. You can change out these gutter widths and column widths and so forth. And actually, I have a great resource for you. So typically for mobile, 16 is the suggested from Material Design for the gutter width. And they also suggest a 4 column grid for that. I am going to recommend to you guys, I actually had already open for you, is this link to really dive into, and I'm putting it in the chat, to dive into grids. And this is a really important thing to think about as well when you're starting to think of responsive. But this is a very beginner's lesson, so we're not going to go deep into it, but I want to give you guys this so you can have there's a lot to read about with responsive layout and grids and thinking about columns, gutters, and margins. And some of you guys are like, what? That's going way over my head. Yes, I get it. And I can show you a little bit how that works on one of the designs if we have time. So this is down here at the bottom. So someone's asking about numbers here. Down at the bottom of the screen, they'll have ranges for you. So if your artboard is around, let's say, what were we at? This was tablet, right? This was our tablet size. The columns they're suggesting is 12 and the gutter margins is 24. And we're on doing mobile right now. So columns is 4 and the margins in the gutter is 16. Okay, so this is what their breakpoint system is that they recommend for you. It's not the end all be all for everything, but Material Design has this great, all this great content on suggestions on how to do different various things, but responsive is one of them. So that's great reading for you guys. All right, let's keep moving on. So here we have, just going to expand these so that they fit all the way. There we go. And we've got spacing. So something that I also do that I haven't talked about yet is I'll look at spacing between different layers on the screen. So here is a card, and I at least on Macs, and I'm sorry I don't have this for Windows, but it's Option for or maybe it's Alt for Windows users. I'm really sorry, I don't know, but you can select that and then it'll tell you the distance it is between the different elements on the screen. So right now it says it's 14. And so I'm just going to make it 16 between those to maintain that 16 kind of gutter width vertically as well as horizontally. And then I'm just going to make sure all of them are like that. And you can see when I start to bring down this 4th card, it already says, hey, look it, these are 16 just like the other ones. Is this where you want it? And it's like, yes, that's where I want it. So it automatically adjusts like that. cool. Oop. So I did it again, guys. I did the responsive resize when I was dragging down the artboard. So I'm going to turn it off on the right hand side. I'm going to make sure my artboard is selected to turn it off. And then from there, I'm going to bring down my artboard. So typically your artboards for mobile are going to be quite a bit, sometimes longer than your desktop, depending on if you remove things, if you change things around. Oh, did we decide small versus large for the buttons? Oh, Sean says, homework reading. Are you happy or sad about homework reading? It's always good to just do a little bit of reading on your own and continuously improve upon your skills a little at a time. I suggest that material design guideline to just read a little bit, little articles here and there, and not to overwhelm yourself, but maybe spend 5-10 minutes, a couple times a week. That's it. Educating. You guys are obviously already, self-educating by watching this, um, by watching this program right now. So I can already tell you guys are self-learners. Okay. So this is a bit wonky here. All of this, the background layer is, again, it moved. So I can see that there's this rectangle here and the image is below. So I want to double click to just bring it back and drag it up. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this border here. Okay. And then I'm just going to center it on the screen. And then I'm going to drag in the rectangle that was covering it. And this rectangle is something that we're just using so that it just darkens the screen a little bit more and makes it easier on the eyes to read the text. So I'm going to look at my phone now. So if you can see, I have, it's kind of hard to see probably for you guys, but I can see the popular genres. It looks really cute, I'm not going to lie. And then I'm going to pricing options and I'm just making sure I can see the background okay, and I can, so I'm going to continue on. And this piece here, I am going to want to stack these, right? Because similarly to this section, they were originally in 3 columns, 1, 2, 3, and we can think about, okay, do they go in 2 columns? So it's, one price 1 here, price 2 here, and price 3 here, and they're really shrunken down, and they're almost probably going to be illegible. We don't want that. So most likely the only real option is to stack them into 1 column, okay? So again, play around with how it feels on your, play around with how it feels on your phone. Now, I had this on repeat grid, if you remember, if you recall, it was this way. I'm actually now just closing it and turning on the repeat grid, the handle for going now vertically. Now, what's really interesting, oh, okay, I was like, there's no text on this third one. I was so confused, but it's just hidden. Haha, it's there. Okay, let's bring in those guys. And I am going to okay, someone's saying small buttons. I'm keeping it small then. Dude, who suggested that? Antonia. Thank you, Antonia. Okay, cool. Now these guys, I am going to make them a bit wider now. Now I'm making this background card wider, but you're not seeing it, right? You're like, what's happening? It's just because it's on repeat grid and the repeat grid handle is ended right here. So I need to extend it. But now it's like, oh wow, there's now another card on top. You just have to change the spacing and you just hover over the pink to change the spacing and move it so that you no longer see that other card there. Okay, so sometimes things can get a little tricky with the repeat grid. And don't worry, you'll just have to adjust a little bit with the handles on the sides of the repeat grid there. Okay, so I'm going to just center this and make this smaller. I'm just going to see how this feels on my screen. Now this feels really small. It's a 12 font, so it got shrunken down, and I want to keep it at the body font. I don't want it to be too small, right? So I am going to go, what do we have? Body tablet. I'm going to keep my body mobile the same as my body tablet. So if I want to, I might just like do that. So I know that it's for both. And here is my, what was I using? I wanted this to be nice and large. This is 30. Okay, so it's almost 30, so I want to change it now to my H to mobile, but it is black. So I just want to change it to white. So now that's my H2. Okay, so then we have that, and then we have the tier 1. Now the tier 1 is a 12 font, and it's okay to go under a 15 font on mobile, but only if it's for things that are not as prevalent, important, like this. Maybe tier 1 maybe doesn't need to be as significant on the screen. You can do it for, you can have small body font that could be maybe labels for buttons and stuff like that, and you could go a little bit lower, maybe to a 12 probably is the lowest that you want to go. So that's okay, but make sure you keep your body font at a minimum 15. All right, let's see how that looks now. Now this button looks really small on my screen. Looks really small on mobile. So I'm going to expand this and make this bigger. What is this size? This is a height of 50. And this is a width of 229. Okay. Now I'm looking on my phone. It looks much better. And just this card needs to go down a little bit. And yay, it feels really good. I know it's so hard for you to see, but it feels really good on my mobile screen here. Before I used to do that, I would just, before I would used to look at my phone, and this is when I was using a different program, I would eyeball it. And then, so when I first started designing, and then I would look at it on mobile after it was developed, and I was like, ah, it looks so bad. It looks crazy. Okay, so the other thing I'm noticing right now is my background image is not really appearing in my phone because it's so long, the image is so long and it's stretching out and you really can't see anything. It's not adding anything. And because of that, I might just get rid of this image in the background. It might be just not necessary. So we talked a little bit earlier about removing things from our design. And one of the reasons why I might want to remove an image like this is one, it's just not looking great, but two, the less images, the less sort of less loading time for the user, right? So it doesn't have to load in as much content and stuff like that. And if it's not adding a lot into your design, then think about stripping it down so that it's a better user experience, perhaps, right? So that's something you would want to maybe think about. So I'm just going to make this just the straight black color. Okay, and I'm going to bring in popular down into here. So now it doesn't fit. Doo, doo, doo. Oh, I have to change these guys too. Okay, 50, 29. All right, we are getting to the end here. And I'm really excited that I at least got to talk to you about the grids. And so I'm so thankful to whoever had asked that again. Remind me who you are, because it's such a great question. It's a great topic. And it's something that I think is great to start thinking about once you start feeling comfortable with getting into XD, with starting these designs and going into like, okay, how would things move from one device to another? And then start really thinking about grids so that you have really consistent designs um, that really do well for the different devices as well. All right, so here's our footer. It looks a little kooky. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to center the logo, and then I'm just going to bring in this over here down to the bottom. So if I look at this navigation and I think about things stacking, I think, okay, this is going to stack under here. This is going to stack underneath here. And so it goes into this sort of kind of a one column view. And that's why I'm just bringing everything like that down into here. But you can also center. It doesn't have to all stack one way left. It doesn't have to be left aligned or right aligned. You can stack center, whatever you'd like. It's just stacking though. Okay. And then I'm just going to bring in, and we're all done, I think. So William says, I wasn't here for the announcement. Is there one? What is your onesie? Just wondering. Yay, you got a onesie too. So it's my birthday, and I was really excited about doing a Halloween themed landing page. And so I thought I should wear a costume. So this is a flying squirrel costume. If you can, I don't know if you can see my wings very well. It's a flying squirrel costume. And it's so cozy too. That's the best kind of Halloween costume is when I could be so comfortable as well. So, looking at my mobile screen, I am now looking just at my phone, making sure everything feels good. It makes sense. It does, except the only thing that's kind of weird is that this color is the same as right above it. So I'm actually just going to make this color slightly darker. That feels better. Now, you kind of don't want to have everything feel like it all just blends into one another. You want it to feel like there's a separation between sections. So sometimes if I'm using black, I'll just find alternative blacks to layer it on. Like if you look at Spotify, they have multiple blacks that they use to kind of give a little bit more of that dimension as well. William says, happy birthday. Thank you so much. So Bootstrap's template is based on the CSS grid. Someone says it's a Pokemon outfit. It's not a Pokemon outfit, but it looks like one. I kind of look like a Raichu or Pikachu or something like that, right? Thank you guys. Thanks for all the birthday love. I'm so glad I got to spend my birthday with you guys. Okay, so we only got a couple more minutes. Let's talk a little bit about the grid. So if I want to turn on the grid here, like I mentioned, you can turn it on there. And typically for desktop, it's a 12 column grid. And in the material design suggestion, they suggest the gutter width be 24 for the width. And so then I can take a look at it here and say, okay, well, my design looks like it's fairly close, but it's not perfect, that's for sure. So I can start to place things on that grid there. So everything is going to be within inside these 12 columns, but you can have certain items extend past or some layers extend like this image. It's bleeding through the whole screen. Okay, so you can have some things be completely full width and break the columns, and that's okay. So You can have that, or you can also, I'm also using that here. I'm breaking that column on the 12 column. It's okay. You just need to know when you're breaking them. So then if I'm looking at these cards, I want to also place these inside the column. So I'm going to just bring them over and drag it over so it touches that column. And actually, this is pretty close. So I wouldn't want to have anything inside this gutter. Okay, you don't want to have some of your card elements just inside the gutter here. So that's why it's tucked inside into here. And it fits into there. And so this is going to be the same. Oh, look what happened here. So that's going to be the same there. Actually, yeah, it all pretty much fits. Yay, there we go. And then the same thing goes for these. So you can just place them inside these columns and it fits, right? 3 of them fit inside these 4 columns. And then there's the gutter, 4 columns, gutter, 4 columns, and then the spacing there. So, and then I could just take this guy and bring him in. I can just bring these and touch to the column there. And there we go. Simple as that. Really easy to kind of put your design into a column grid. So I sent in the link for you guys to check out more of how to use grids and so forth. All right, guys, let's see what's going on in the chat. How are you guys doing? Someone else's birthday soon. Yay! What day is your birthday? I think Kanota Izumi. Hi. Sam Peterson's check me out on Behance. Thanks. Yeah, and feel free to check me out on Instagram. I do fun and educational, funky videos on Instagram as well as TikTok and LinkedIn and YouTube, all the things. So feel free to check it out. Doo-doo-doo. And I just have more happy birthdays. Thank you so much. Julio. Julio says thank you. Oh, Julio says happy birthday to both me and Kanata. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you guys spending the day with me again, and I hope to see you guys soon on other platforms. And maybe if you guys start to play around with your own responsive designs, please send me the link, and I'm happy to give you guys some feedback. And then happy Halloween for next month. Hope you guys really enjoy the holiday season and have a great rest of your guys' day. All right, bye.